Good afternoon, everybody. This is Naif Mubarak with Mubarak Law. Our office is here in downtown Orlando. We'll get started in a few moments for this week's Facebook Live. We do have a special guest and some really important topics to get through. And I look forward to introducing our guests with you shortly and going over these good news and results and some cases here now. All right, it is December 16th. It is this week's Facebook Live, and I want to go ahead and give a little background about our guest. Last week, many of you were able to meet our new Associate Attorney, Brittany Mills, and today you're going to meet Attorney Mariam Sardar, who is a Brooklyn native like myself. If you don't know it, I was born in Brooklyn. And so was Miriam. She went to undergrad at USF and then continued on to law school at New York School of Law. Brittany and Miriam joined our firm in November, and many of you might have seen our posts of training, and we've been doing a really great job training and making sure we're onboarding our team members. So I want to take the time to introduce them to you all. And that's the purpose of today's Facebook Live, as well as to answer some questions that we've received regarding personal injury. So some more information about Mariam. She is born in New York. She's of Pakistani descent. And she studied international studies with a certificate of national and comparative intelligence from USF, and then went on to graduate law school in 2017. She worked for the state of New York Liquor Authority. So a very interesting background here. I'm just going to go ahead and bring her on and hope you guys can welcome her. And let's welcome Miss Attorney Mariam Sardar here.
Hi.
Hey, Mariam. Sorry about the...
No, it's okay.
Over the difficult word of dissent here. And wanted to welcome you. Thanks for joining me today.
Thank you. Thank you for having me.
Mariam, I met you back in January, and our paths crossed again. I want to give you a warm welcome on behalf of the team and myself. I'm happy that you're here. For those of you who are just meeting Mariam, she is going to be assisting me as case manager for personal injury cases and representing individuals as attorneys, as an attorney for immigration matters as well. She's admitted in the great state of Indiana, which allows her to practice federal law wherever in any state and assist me as a case manager for personal injury. Mariam, we have some comments here I'm going to go ahead and share and possibly embarrass you already. Nadine says, yay, Mariam. And then we have Khalil, that's my beautiful, very intelligent niece. Well,
thank you guys.
And then we do, I'm not alone, Mr. Mubarak. Hey, Bashar, it's been a while. It's good to see you on our Facebook Live. Mariam, so tell us, you have an interesting background. Can you explain to me what this certificate in national and comparative intelligence is, and what can an individual learn from and use this certificate in?
Yeah, so I majored in international studies at the University of South Florida. That was my bachelor's degree. And they also had the certificate program, the National and Comparative Intelligence Program, which basically allowed us to learn about national security procedures, a lot of government regulations. Through the program, they also had an opportunity to travel abroad. So I was able to study abroad in Estonia, which is a really small country that shares a border with Russia. They're known for a lot of amazing tech developments. We were able to meet a lot of foreign diplomats and learn about the country's own national security procedures. And we also actually got to meet the president. So,
okay, that's a pretty great accomplishment and a cool opportunity. How long were you in Estonia for?
We were there for a total of 10 days.
And I do see that you, as I mentioned, besides being from Brooklyn, your family's from Pakistan. Do you speak any languages in addition to English?
I do. So I speak Urdu fluently, and I can understand Punjabi as well because my family is Punjabi. So my Punjabi skills, don't test me on them. I probably wouldn't make my grandparents proud, but I can definitely converse in Urdu.
Okay, great. I know that when I first started practicing law, I thought I spoke Arabic, and then I started
Exactly.
doing consultations in Arabic, and it's a different thing when you start to use legal terminology.
Hmm.
Last week, we had Brittany on, and her Spanish is great. So I'm happy that we have so many languages in our office,
Hmm.
um, and it's a great service that we can provide our clients. So you have been really interested in immigration for some time.
Hmm.
Where does that come from? What interest do you have in immigration law?
So I come from a family of immigrants. My grandfather came from Pakistan. So I was born and raised in Brooklyn, New York, like you said. It was a very diverse community of so many different immigrant populations. The neighborhood that I grew up in is known for its really large Russian population. So I was raised with different immigrant communities my whole life. When I went to law school, I was able to be part of the Immigrant and Non-Citizen Rights Clinic. There, I got to see a lot of people, clients that we had that were impacted firsthand by a lot of post 9/11 counterterrorism policies who had their civil rights violated. And a lot of it was the result of just not having the education or access to proper legal representation. So that kind of motivated me to go more towards, trying to raise awareness for immigrant rights and trying to represent clients who are part of vulnerable communities.
And it's really important that people know and hear that the immigrant communities in the US are often taken advantage of and are a vulnerable community. So even sometimes attorneys or people who pose to be attorneys take advantage of these people. So I know that's what first had my interest as well. In law school, I thought I wanted to be an entertainment attorney, something from like the show Entourage. But
Mhm.
once I did the immigration clinic and realized the impact you can have as an immigration lawyer, I knew that's what I wanted to do. You also worked for the New York State Liquor Authority. Can
Mhm.
you give us some background at what you did there?
Sure. So after law school, I was selected for what is called a New York State Excelsior Fellowship, which basically allows you to be placed in a government agency and kind of get some litigation experience for 2 years out of law school. So my placement was at the Liquor Authority, which is a very niche area of law. It's not very common, but I prosecuted cases on behalf of a New York State agency, and they detailed, violations of the liquor law. So that could be going after any licensee that is licensed to sell alcohol in the state of New York. There's a certain set of rules you have to follow. And, if you happen to break those rules, or if you, for example, sell alcohol to a minor, if you just so many different violations.
My family, we had a grocery store when I was growing
Mhm.
up off of International Drive and
Yeah.
the tourist corridor. So if you didn't ID somebody properly, sometimes you could be fined or, in very some unusual cases, arrested. Is it
Mhm.
similar along that kind of code enforcement?
Yeah. So it's basically just like regulation enforcement. And so it was a great experience. We did a lot of hearings, a lot of trials.
Anything you look forward to learning or doing at our office as it pertains to either personal injury or the immigration realm?
Definitely. So I loved my time working for different government agencies, but I'm really excited to be working with actual clients again. I really miss that client facing work, and I really enjoy connecting with my clients, being able to have one on one conversations with them, and just knowing that we're directly working with people to improve their circumstances or whatever quality of life that they have.
I agree. We do make a difference, whether, a lot of times car accident or personal injury attorneys are viewed as, ambulance chasers or not making the impact we're making with like immigration attorneys do. But when you start to get into the practice of personal injury and you see how these insurance companies treat people who are truly hurt
Mhm.
and their lives have been changed forever, you can see that there is good to be done in this area of law as well. So I'm happy that we're able to provide both of these services. So today's Facebook Live, we're going to do some frequently asked questions that we've received and that will also be on our website as it pertains to car accidents today specifically. So if you do have immigration questions, feel free to put them in the comments. As always, nothing personal. Please, generic questions. This is the internet. Everything is public. So there's no confidentiality here, but we'll do our best to answer any questions that you might have. But before we jump into car accidents and our frequently asked questions, I forgot to share our good news. We have several great results just from last Thursday to today. We have another 2 new U.S. citizens, some individuals who've been waiting, I would say, several years based on processing times and some personal delays who have now been sworn in. Congratulations to you all. I know I've congratulated you yesterday. We also had a case, marriage spouse approved. The spouse was from Syria. There was delays due to the travel ban. There was also then the COVID shutdown, but finally my client and his wife will be reunited. The visa was issued, and I couldn't be happier for them today. And finally, just yesterday or the day before, we received a U visa supplement signed by an investigating agency. Attorney Mills, Brittany, you met last week, was helping me with one of our U visa cases. That's somebody who's a victim of a crime and has assisted an authority or investigating agency with the investigation of that crime, and it allows them to pursue status. So a lot of times, as Mariam mentioned, the immigrant community is a vulnerable community, and sometimes people are victims of crimes and they never come forward to report these crimes. But with the U visa, we are able to help encourage people to come forward and assist in the investigation. So that's an incredible amount of great news that we've had since last Thursday. Quick updates again. Our office is closed next Friday, the 24th, for the Christmas holiday. We'll reopen again on the 27th. And now we're going to jump into some car accident questions and see what me and Mariam can tell you all about these frequently asked questions that will also be on our website. I'm going to shoot this first one to Mariam and give myself a break from talking. Mariam, do you need or do I need a lawyer to settle with an insurance company?
So you don't need a lawyer. You can always represent yourself. If you are in court, you might hear the judge or another attorney refer to you as a pro se litigant, which means that you're representing yourself. You always have that right. But when it comes to personal injury cases or really any type of case, it is always really important that you have a good lawyer who understands the procedure of the case that you're dealing with. So in Florida, it's important to have a personal injury lawyer that is familiar with what type of records to collect after you've been involved in an accident, where to file certain documents, how to, send out a demand to an insurance company and keep up with all of the different timelines and the statutes that there are for filing things like that. So the short answer is you don't need one, but you absolutely should get one if you have the ability to.
Right. And sometimes you'll get in a car accident and it's really telling when the insurance company calls you within a couple of days and offers you a check for $1,500 or $3,000, and they don't know anything about your injuries or your damages. It's clear that they're trying to close that out, and it might not be in the best interest of you. Like, how can they know how injured you are if you haven't finished your medical treatment? Right. So we see that very often where insurance companies will offer folks, a couple $1,000, and it hasn't been a couple weeks since the accident. So you don't even know, as an individual who's been hurt, the outcome of the results of these injuries and how long they may be around in a couple of weeks. So that's usually a sign that they know that they have some vulnerabilities and some liability. So they probably want to get it, excuse me, off of their desk and get the waiver signed from you all. So I want to take a step back. And in our office, we provide folks with I've been in an accident, now what? And what steps do we need to take in order to have an accident? So we sometimes see this question as far as, what do I do? Like, what evidence do I collect? What should be done? And this is kind of in conjunction with another question that we have as far as, do I call the police? I would say if you've been in an accident, we always recommend contacting the police. Just because it helps to have a version of events written down by an independent individual, especially like an officer. So Mariam, what evidence or what information should one collect if they have been in an accident?
So the most important piece of information, which most people probably already know, is to get the other driver's insurance or any other party's insurance, as well as their identifying information. So you want to get their name, their date of birth, their address, and preferably a copy of their, insurance card. You can take a picture or write down the number. If the person driving doesn't happen to own the car, you can also ask for the information of the vehicle owner themselves. But like Naive said, the reason why we really recommend and stress calling the police is because police officers will come, they will speak to both parties, they'll also speak to any witnesses, and they will know to record a lot of information that we sometimes, being in the stress of an accident and panicking and worrying about what just happened, we forget to write down those important details. So that also includes the street names, intersections, were the vehicles moved after an accident. All of these little pieces of information are really important and can really help us when we are communicating with the insurance companies later on. It's also really important to take pictures of any damage that that occurred to the car, as well as any photos of, bruises, scratches, any injuries that you have as well.
Okay, so you've made a lot of good information. I just kind of recap here. Driver's information, insurance cards, document, meaning take pictures of the damages to your car, to their car. If anybody was wounded or airbags deployed, or if there was any cuts immediately on scene or glass, or just do your best to take pictures if you're not hurt. Of course, if you're hurt, you call the ambulance, you wait for that to be taken care of. But if you're able and capable, you want to document. Mariam, we have some questions and some comments. I want to go ahead. Of course, you making proud. And then we have great to see you, Mariam. Keep up the good work. But here is an actual 2 questions, I think. Is it vital to call the police if you're in an accident? And then also, what do you do if the police do not take accurate information about what happened? So this is a good question. I'm happy to answer it. You can jump in first, and I can chime in. Why don't you take a stab at it?
So typically in Florida, it isn't vital to call the police if if there aren't any major injuries. If the accident was very minor, you can exchange insurance information and typically go on. But of course, like for all the reasons we just mentioned, we do recommend filing a police report and calling the police once they are on site. As far as the police report itself, that is information that can be possibly disputed later on. But the reason why we recommend the police report anyway is because it's not just a recount of the events that happened. Sometimes police officers are able to determine liability or who was at fault for causing the accident, but it's not a definitive answer as to who caused the incident and why.
One party might receive a ticket, maybe no party receives a ticket. You could always dispute the ticket, but sometimes police are human beings and they can make mistakes in the report. Perhaps they forgot to mention how many passengers were in it. You can reach out to the investigating officer to determine, hey, can you modify this? Can you amend this police report? So, Corinne, that's a great question, and it can be changed in some circumstances. Sometimes they don't want to, but oftentimes if they realize they've made a mistake, they are willing to do so. Now, the next question that I want to mention here is because a lot of our clients who are foreign, even our personal injury clients, tend to be some of our immigrant based community, and they think that I don't have money for a lawyer, or how does the process work? So one of the questions that we receive here is, how much do personal injury lawyers charge? And in Florida and in many places, most of the time, it is a contingency fee. Most attorneys charge the same contingency fee. Mariam, can you tell our viewers what is a contingency fee and what is typical in our area of law for this type of fee?
Sure. So like Naive said, most personal injury lawyers work based on contingency fees. Almost all personal injury cases that you see operate like that. So a contingency fee means that a lawyer will only recover a fee based on the outcome of the case. Typically, you're not going to pay a retainer like you normally would. You're not going to put a deposit down. The lawyer will only take a fee. In the state of Florida, the fee is typically 33%, about 33% or a third of whatever settlement is collected. So for example, if an insurance company writes you a check for about $10,000, in the end, the lawyer will end up taking about a third of that, or approximately $3,000 to $4,000. So aside from all of the costs that are associated with the case itself or any investigation, you typically will not pay the lawyer anything upfront until you actually get your settlement check.
Okay. And, I even tell people that this oftentimes when it's in the contract, it's very clear. And if you're signing any contract with an attorney or retainer agreement, it typically spells out the fee arrangements and when do these fees go up, what costs are included. So make sure you ask your questions. There's a client rights statement that we must provide in Florida that kind of also, most of the content is also incorporated in the agreement itself. I didn't mean to stutter, but Corinne is over here with several questions, and let's see what here. Do you undocumented immigrants have to be worried about calling the police if they get into an accident? Will ICE get involved? Okay, great question. Slightly complicated, and I'm going to try my best to explain it. Of course, the issue with this situation is whether or not the individual has a valid driver's license, right? So if you have a valid driver's license, you shouldn't be worried to call the police, because in most cases they're not doing immigrant status checks, right? But this is a county to county, state by state policy basis that can be different. Orange County might have a different policy than Polk County when it comes to reporting somebody who doesn't have a valid driver's license and who doesn't have proof of status. So typically my advice is always, if you're undocumented, if you do not have a driver's license, you should not be driving. It is one, a violation of the law. Two, the fastest way to get caught with ICE or to get involved. Now, as far as can you pursue a claim, if you're undocumented and you've been rear-ended, your status does not matter whatsoever, right? You are not going to be prevented from pursuing a claim because you do not have status here. You were injured, there's insurance, you should still be able to pursue a claim. Now, again, this is a fact case-by-case basis as to whether or not what will be the outcome, and also in addition to the facts, what jurisdiction are you in? And so this was something that became very polarized with sanctuary cities versus non-sanctuary cities as to what agencies are reporting to other federal agencies. Should they be doing the policing of federal ICE agents and whatnot? But we are going to say, if you do not have a driver's license, you should not be driving. If you were hurt in an accident and you do not have status, you can pursue a claim. Okay. All right. The next question I have here, I think we do see this question a lot. I've been in an accident now. If I just want you to know about it, I feel fine. Do I need to see a doctor? Mariam, what would you tell somebody in this situation?
I would say that it is very important that you do see a doctor, even if you feel fine and you feel like you don't have any injuries or you don't have any pain. A lot of times after a car accident, you will not see symptoms of any injury right away, so you don't know what you're missing. The only way to figure that out is if you do see a doctor or you do seek treatment right away and the doctor is able to do x-rays, MRIs, do some scans, and really tell you if there's an injury that you just aren't feeling yet. And if you are able to catch it right away, of course, like all medical problems, there's a much greater chance that you can try to mitigate any of the pain that would come later on if you catch it early on. So we always recommend that you seek treatment. Additionally, aside from the benefit to your own physical health, the Florida Personal Injury Protection Law does require that an injured victim who wants to collect on any personal injury protection money does seek treatment within 14 days. So after an accident, you have 2 weeks to make your first, to seek your first form of medical treatment. So if you're in an accident and an ambulance is called and you go to the hospital, that can count as, the first treatment that you've sought. So it is very important to try to get into treatment as soon as possible, especially within the 2-week period.
Yeah. Thank you, Mariam. I think we have time for one more question. Mm-hmm. And just to answer that doctor question as well, you're not doctors as much as you WebMD. I mean, some of you are doctors. Even if you are, you should get checked out by a professional to see if there's anything that you have received or incurred as an injury. Sometimes there's injuries you can't see. So it is important, for most time, if you have get treated within that 14 days, it's not going to cost you out of pocket. That's why we have insurance. Make sure you take care of your health and you are seen by a medical professional. Before we get to the last question, I am going to harp again, because I do it every time we talk about personal injury, is uninsured motorist coverage, or UM. Basically, if you're hit by a party that does not have insurance, does not have bodily injury insurance, and you're hurt, you're not going to be able to recover the damages that you've incurred. I mean, so we talk about this. We had a case recently settled for $50,000, the policy limits, because the damages were so severe, but that $50,000 didn't come from the driver who caused the accident. That came from the UM policy. So if you want to double check your insurance policy, please, 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 I cannot stress this enough, and I even yell at my brothers and sisters, I don't think they listen to me. Please see if you have a UM coverage, because that's the only way to protect yourself. And you can't just trust other people on the road to have proper coverage for your injuries. Mariam, can you walk us through a personal injury process at Mubarak Law very briefly, and we can wrap up today's Facebook Live?
Sure. So after we have the initial consultation with the client, we'll determine whatever we need to know about the case, the details, and then we will get our process started. So we're going to start by gathering the documents that we need. Typically, we're going to request a police report. We're going to request medical records if you visited a hospital or any type of treatment that you've already began. During the time that we're starting this initial phase, I want to stress that the most important thing for the client to focus on is just following up with treatment and making sure that you're sticking to the plan that your doctor gave you. We don't want you to worry about anything else during that time. The most important thing is for you to get better. Okay. So in addition to that being your own benefit for your physical health, it's very important for us to have a proper and accurate representation of what is going on with you medically. The only way that we can do that is by following up with the doctors that you've seen and getting an accurate and complete record of any medical treatment that you received. So after we have all of our documents, we are going to then draft a demand and send it over to the insurance companies. After we're going to, add up all of the costs that you've incurred. So that includes the cost of medical treatment, any property damage that happened with your vehicle, as well as if you were unable to go to work, any lost wages, any future cost based on the injuries that you received. After adding all of that up, we're going to request a settlement check based on that number from the insurance companies. And then after that, negotiations might be entered. And the timeline is, unfortunately, it varies case by case. But once we agree on a settlement number with the insurance companies, they will then disperse the check and we will begin to distribute the money to all of the parties.
I mean, I think it's safe to say that once the accident occurs, I mean, it's going to be 6+ months before negotiations usually start, unfortunately, between getting records in time of a pandemic. So if you are seeing the treatment and you are going to, try to get these records, a lot of times when we request them, we're waiting weeks, if not months, to get these from the medical providers. So a lot of times the delay might not be anything that anybody can control, but you have to have proof of your treatment history. You have to have proof of your damages, whether it's lost wages or medical bills or other damages that you've received, pain and suffering. We want to be able to document these things and try to keep a journal. I try to tell people, log, how are you feeling? Think about your head all the way to your toes and kind of like, how has this progressed? How has it affected your sleep? How's it affected your, your married life if you're married, or your time with your folks and your kids? So that's what we want to make sure we include in our packages when we send the demand. If we're unable to meet a settlement number, then it would go to litigation, which is filing suit, which will then delay the case considerably. But sometimes, unfortunately, it must happen if the insurance companies, we believe, are not being reasonable in providing our offers. That's today's Facebook Live. You might have just heard the church bells. We are at 4:30. I don't have anything else for you. I can't guarantee we're going to have a Facebook Live next week. We have a short week next week. Mariam, anything else you'd like to add?
No, thank you for having me.
Thanks for joining me. This Facebook will be on our YouTube channel. And of course, the questions, if you have questions for the next Facebook Live, please let us know. And don't forget to follow us on social media like YouTube and Facebook and Instagram, and where we'll have more updates and you can find more client reviews and even some live client testimonials. Thanks again, and I hope everybody has a wonderful night.
Thank you.